Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Tarnished Bronze where we are going to paint a vulgar picture. And of course, paint a vulgar picture is a reference to the Smiths, who obviously the lyrics in that issue repackage, reevaluate the songs. And so, is there any property in comics that has been repackaged more than when reprinted than Conan? Of course, I'm talking about Conan, the Savage Sword of Conan, and Conan itself, which is reprinted even in the 70s and 80s with Conan Saga. And then it was reprinted again under the auspices of Marvel when they re-got the license, and now it's been reprinted again and again and again by Titan Books, which is also reprinting all of the Dark Horse stuff. So Conan was a reprinter, basically from day one, and even my first magazine format Conan issues. It was called Conan the Savage, which went for about 9 or 10 issues in the early to mid 90s. That also had some reprint material, if I believe, in it, which was the large black and white. I love these large black and white magazines. And like Morrissey says, just repackage, resell it. Now this Conan Reforged, this is issue one. It's only just recently come out. This is a slightly different take on the repackage because they are going to be coloring this. Now we'll get into it later, but usually I cannot stand the recoloring of comics. Now, the reason that I don't like the recoloring of comics is because everyone feels the need to do the Photoshop gradients. Even if we're not talking about mid 90s garish Photoshop gradients, it just jars with the fact that the production process was designed such that either the colors would be flat or washed out on newsprint, or more likely both. And so it never looks very good at all, in my opinion. Reconditioning pages in order to make the color more representative of what it was meant to be is totally fine with. And indeed, a lot of trade paperbacks just use the old coloring. It's the omnibuses which reprint every single thing that have this unfortunate tendency to be recolored, which is highly annoying. Now, Conan Reforged is not an exact recapitulation of the Savage Sword of Conan issue 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As far as I can gather, that's what I thought it was, but it's actually recoloring these stories that appear in Savage Sword of Conan, but in an order which sort of mirrors Conan's life story. So we're not getting Savage Sword issue 1 here. We're actually getting issue 24 and part of issue 4, because this is going to involve The Frost Giant's Daughter by Robert E. Howard, Roy Thomas, and Barry Windsor-Smith. The great Barry Windsor-Smith, the artist for men, not the artist for boys. And then we're also going to get Tower of the Elephant, which has been in Conan the Barbarian and Savage Sword of Conan. This is the Conan the Barbarian, the Savage Sword of Conan version with Robert E. Howard, Roy Thomas, Jon Buscema, and Alfredo Alcala. Now, we have loads of Barry Windsor-Smith and loads of Jon Buscema content on the channel. Maybe not loads, but we're going to get more. And this is just a magnificent representation. So I've not buried the lead. I really like this. These issues are meant to be black and white. They've got this Italian team coloring it, and it really looks like those graphic novels that we know and love, or the Bandes Desne. I am murdering the pronunciation of that from those European collections. Now, my history with Conan, I actually started enjoying Conan when I went to a newsagent's and they had run out of Magic the Gathering cards. So there was no new Magic the Gathering cards at the time in Australia. This would have been fourth edition, and the whole thing would have been exploding. And because Australia is an island, you don't necessarily get all of the stuff, especially on time, especially in the era before the internet. And so, what was I going to spend my pocket money on? I'd already, there wasn't really any comic books out that day, so I went and I got some of these Conan trading cards. Now, other comic aficionados from the 90s will remember the trading cards for the X-Men, and they were just exploding. I don't remember those at all. I remember this excellent Conan trading card set. I really hope that when I visit home again, I have them stashed away somewhere. They were absolutely magnificent. They had Frank Frazetta stuff. They had they had Barry Windsor-Smith. They had loads of amazing card art on it. And then that was like the gateway drug for me and Conan. And for the last 35 years, I've read all the Robert E. Howard stuff. I've read almost all of the Savage Sword. I was just super jazzed in the early 2000s when Dark Horse took over the license. So then I could start from ground zero with the whole Dark Horse series. Absolutely magnificent stuff. That Kurt Busiek and Kerry Nord stuff is absolutely magnificent. But that is not necessarily germane to what we are talking about here, which is uh, the Frost Giant's daughter and big Barry Windsor Smith doing some big art on these big pages. This is the oversized magazine style stuff. This is colored. It's colored with restraint. It looks magnificent. These stories are great. Not even 2025 Roy Thomas, who thinks maybe that he was the instigator of Wolverine, can ruin this for me. So I really like Roy Thomas and how he was able to weave in Robert E. Howard and non-Robert E. Howard Conan stories into both his Conan the Barbarian and also his Savage Sword of Conan tales. But the Roy Thomas of 2025 is not the Roy Thomas of 1975. And the Roy Thomas of 1975, I can't get enough of him. Your mileage may vary with what he's up to now, but if we can just divorce ourselves a little bit from that, this is magnificent. And he's not getting in the way of big Robert E. Howard, Texas's finest author. Robert E. Howard, by the way, I think he died when he was 28, 29. That, well before he was at least in his mid-30s. He maybe only had a career that lasted 6 years. Now there's more energy, more creativity, more vitality, more vim, more vigor, and more joy and tragedy and drama in 6 years of Robert E. Howard short stories than there is in most authors' entire lifetime. He had more creativity than more credit and more drive than most people manage to summon in an entire lifetime. So do yourselves a favor, get onto the original Robert E. Howard stuff. Just superb work. And, you've got an artist in Barry Windsor Smith who is doing the world of Hyperborea, rather, a real service, just magnificent. The coloring is not getting in the way, the dynamism, the vectors, the sheer energy of this stuff. Barry Windsor Smith is on all cylinders, and now you can see some of those dynamics pop out a little more. And like I said, the coloring is just really restrained, really great. And for the majority of this issue, actually, Roy gets out of the way and just lets big Robert E. Howard's words speak for themselves. So this is like a masterclass in captioning. He's taking from the actual Robert E. Howard stuff and just putting those captions straight in there. And Barry Windsor Smith is just bringing it on this basically it's the story of Apollo, and I think Apollo and Daphne, and it is transported to Conan and the Frost Giant's daughter. Just tremendous work. Now, some people might be disappointed in Jon Buscema following Barry Windsor Smith. Not at the time. Apparently, Jon Buscema outsold Barry Windsor Smith, which I find hard to believe now, not because I don't think Jon Buscema is good, but just because I think that Barry Windsor Smith is almost inhuman. But here we have the Savage Sword of Conan's version of Tower of the Elephant. There was also Tower of the Elephant in Conan the Barbarian, and that was obviously in color originally. This one was in black and white. This one's been recolored by that same Italian team who's doing great, great work. And I'd actually want to contrast these two. So I think we might do some Barry Windsor-Smith stuff very shortly on the channel, at least covering some Conan. We all know what Patrick thinks about characters that don't have superpowers. So maybe we'll stick clear of getting Patrick involved with this. But I'm just going to show you some of these pages, and they're just breathtaking. The angles that Buscema uses, that it might be heretical for me to say, but having these in color almost makes the dynamism and the light and the shade even more impressive in these Buscema pages, because we've got color to sort of like help focus the eye on the what's bright and dark, rather than sometimes everything is just lost in the black and white ink. This is really allowing the eye to sort of dwell on particular details, and just look at how correct all of the Conan's world is, all of the weight on the actions, you know, just magnificent stuff. And in this era of Savage Sword, Conan is definitely not as lithe as he is in the Barry Windsor-Smith version, but he's not the roided up version that I've come to attribute to Barry to Big Jon Buscema, which is maybe doing him a disservice. I think people who came after him, like the Vallejos, which I can't really stand, made him look like a steroided up idiot, and that is probably because Boris and Julie Vallejo are bodybuilders, and so they didn't really understand, or they didn't appreciate, that Conan is a thief, he's a reaver, he's a buccaneer, a swashbuckler. He's not necessarily a classic Dungeons and Dragons barbarian. And the reason that I'm not flicking through this and really getting into the stories, I just want people to just look at this art. It is just magnificent. Jon Buscema can pretty much draw anything. Look at them scaling this wall. Just beautiful. It's just I didn't really have the highest of hopes for Conan Reforged. I'm just blown away by how well this has been done. And it's not printed on the glossy paper, it's printed on pseudo glossy paper. It's a big magazine. It just feels excellent. It reads excellent. I love everything about it. It's probably one of the best $10 I've spent on comics in a long, long time. And I really hope that Titan actually has been doing a really good job with Conan. I'm just pleased that they're sticking with it, and I'm pleased that they're sticking with the newsprint version of the black and white Savage Sword as well. So you can see here just the Tower of the Elephant. I have deliberately missed out the pages that do the big reveal of the heart of the elephant, because if you haven't read the story, or if you haven't read the comic, the heart of the elephant is one of the most affecting things that is in the Conan oeuvre. But here we just have the more action-oriented stuff. Like you can see Conan falling, Conan running away from us, Conan running before us, Conan running away, running towards us. Like, just the vectors are just great with Jon Buscema. And just he can draw it all. He can draw it all. This guy, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Like I said, I'm just so pleased that this was good. It was so good that I just wanted to show it off on the channel. If you are on the fence about Conan, give it a try. If you find black and white stuff a little bit hard to get into, give it a try. If you're looking for a Conan greatest hits, there's probably 500 issues of Conan. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trade paperbacks for Conan. If you just want to start somewhere with this, like getting the greatest of Conan Savage Sword Reforged is highly recommended. So this is Tarnished Bronze. we're meant to be looking at some Bronze Age comics. These are some Bronze Age creators, but this is new. You can get this now. I think they printed a lot of these, so you should be able to find it. Go to your local store, check it out. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for having this trip down memory lane. And I will see you in the next episode. Patrick will see you in the next episode. Like, follow, subscribe, and just enjoy the comic hobby. That's what it's for. Comics are meant to be read, and take it easy.